I stood in my kitchen holding a spoon I didn't need, staring at a boiling kettle I couldn't remember turning on. My heart raced as I checked the clock. It was 4:30, but everything after lunch felt like blank space in my mind. I tried to convince myself I was just tired, that everyone does things without thinking sometimes. But deep down, I knew something was wrong. That evening, I found a receipt in my bag from a shop I hadn't visited in weeks. The date showed that same afternoon. I had bought milk, eggs, bread, and a notebook. The notebook sat in my bag, still wrapped in plastic, but I had no memory of buying it. None at all. I sat on my bed and cried. I was only 32 years old. This shouldn't be happening to me. I didn't tell anyone. How could I explain that I was losing hours of my life, that I was finding things I didn't remember buying? So I kept quiet and started writing down everything I did each day. For a while, things seemed better. Then one morning, I found a note on my kitchen table in my own handwriting. It said, "Don't be afraid. You're doing fine." I hadn't written it. The door was locked, the windows closed. No one had broken in. Yet the note was real. I searched my apartment and found 2 more notes. One behind the bathroom mirror said, "You're not alone." Another inside my book said, "They won't believe you, but that's okay." I was shaking. Was I writing these during my blackouts? Was I losing my mind? When I checked my calendar, I saw a day marked with a red heart and the words, "Meet him at the garden." I didn't remember writing it, but when Saturday came, I felt pulled to go. At the public gardens, a man stood near a tree holding a red umbrella. He smiled when he saw me and said my name. He acted like he knew me. He said we'd met at a bookshop, had coffee twice, talked about books. He said I told him I sometimes forgot things, but always left notes. I didn't know this man, but he seemed kind. The bookshop name he mentioned sounded familiar, and when I checked my receipt, it was printed there. Over the following days, I discovered more signs of this other version of myself. I found a journal with entries in my handwriting, but the voice felt different. One line said, "I'm finally free." Another said, "This time, I won't forget." I started hearing whispers, feeling sudden urges to do things I'd later discover I'd already done. One night, I dreamed of a house with green walls. I stood in a hallway holding a mirror, seeing an older, sadder version of myself. When I woke, my hands felt heavy. My notebook had a new page that said, "You were there again." I visited the bookshop the man described. The woman behind the counter smiled and said, "Back again." I wandered to the poetry section and found a small paper with just my name written on it. Someone inside me was trying to speak, and I had to listen before it was too late. In an old box at home, I found a photo album. Among college pictures was a photo of a house with green walls and a white fence. The house from my dream. An address was written on the back in my handwriting. Without thinking twice, I drove to that small town 2 hours away. When I arrived, everything felt familiar. The streets, the sounds, even the wind. The house stood exactly like the photo. The front door was slightly open. Inside, dust-covered old furniture. On a bookshelf sat a single diary. The first page read, "To remember is to return." The pages were filled with questions, and one repeated over and over. "What did you forget?" I found a drawing of a woman who looked like me, crying into a mirror. When I walked to the actual mirror in the hallway and touched it, I saw her for a second. She looked tired, older, wearing a white dress I didn't own. I ran back to my car, my hands shaking. That night, I set my phone to record while I slept. In the morning, the video showed me getting up at 2:15, walking to the kitchen, writing something, then standing motionless in front of the mirror for 10 minutes. The paper she wrote said, "You're starting to see it." I wrote her a note and left it on the mirror. "Who are you?" The next morning, it was replaced with a new one. "I am you, without fear." I returned to the greenhouse and found a wall covered with photos of me at different ages, doing things I couldn't remember. On a table lay a book called The Parts We Leave Behind, filled with letters I'd written to someone called The Other. One letter ended, "When you remember, everything will hurt, but then you'll be free." I visited my mother and asked about houses with green walls. Her face changed. She told me we'd lived in one when I was 7, in a town near the sea. Something had happened there, but I was too young to understand. In her attic, I found my childhood drawings. One showed 2 identical girls, one crying and one smiling. On the back it said, "Me and the girl who helps me." The memories came slowly after that. Not full stories, just feelings, a sense of hiding. A comforting voice when I was afraid. I realized I had created this other version of myself as a child to feel safe, to carry pain I couldn't hold alone, and somehow she had stayed, leaving notes and signs, bringing me back to where it all began, not to frighten me, but to help me heal. I stopped being afraid. I started writing to her every night, thanking her for protecting me when I couldn't protect myself. I began to feel whole again, not perfect, but present and awake. Now, when I look in the mirror, I don't feel alone. I see all the parts of me, the scared girl, the quiet protector, the woman who survived. I don't lose time anymore. The old notes don't confuse me now. They comfort me. My mind wasn't trying to destroy me. It was trying to protect me in the only way it knew how. And finally, I listened.